Cool. Happy Thursday, everybody. We're approaching noon so that we can go live and talk a little bit about how to stop making excuses. I have my own story surrounding it. I've got my friend and client, Allison, who's also going to talk to us a little bit about what it's like to break down the excuse. And today I'm going to give you guys two major things that you can do to break down the excuses that we give ourselves that keep us from taking action. And I'm also going to give you 4 prompts that you can always ask yourself to know if you're making an excuse or if it's your truth. Because for me, there's a difference between saying something like, I'm too tired to do something and it being the truth versus I'm saying it in order to get out of doing something that's in my best interest. And it's not always so easy to figure out the difference between those things. And I'm going to break it down for you today, the difference between those things. And then Allison and I are going to have a chat about what it's like to break down those excuses and to take action anyway, so that you can really discover who you are on the other side of taking action. So I want to welcome you guys all to this live today. And if you're tuning in, go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from. The weather here in South Orange, New Jersey is absolutely beautiful. And we're really enjoying that today. But it is getting darker. We've got daylight savings, I think, is coming up this, not this weekend, but the following. And I know that the darkness can also kind of bring us down and bring us into the excuses, right? Oh, with daylight savings time, I have to sleep more. It's darker, la, la, la. Like, what's the excuse and what's the truth? So we'll get into a little bit more of that later on in this live. And let's go ahead and get into it. So if you ever feel like you're making every excuse in the book not to move forward with taking care of yourself, you're not alone in that. The number one reason that women come to work with me is they say something to the effect of, Helen, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I just can't seem to do it. So we come up with things like, I'm not a morning person, so I can't get up and therefore I can't fit my workout in the day. I'm too busy to meal plan. I don't want to spend hours meal planning, and I get it. I don't want to do those things either. And it's not that getting up earlier or meal planning are even the keys to health, but we have it stuck in our heads that we have to adhere to certain rituals or diet plans in order to be able to make progress. And some of that is true, but it has to work for you and what's going on for you and your body. And if we don't align the way that you're doing things with the way that you want to feel, then you're always going to feel like you're just trying to do something that doesn't even belong to you. Like, it doesn't even, getting up early doesn't belong to me. But if you want to feel energized and powerful and confident and amazing in your day, and you haven't tried it yet, then why aren't you taking action to try it? And that's what we're going to break down. So understanding the difference between whether you're making an excuse or you're telling the truth to yourself when it comes to following through with your health was where I felt like I was stuck for years. I felt like I was too tired to cook, too tired to work out, too busy to rest, too busy to even play. Right. So for years, I blamed my external circumstances. And I talk about this in the multi-author book that I helped write back in April. But blaming your external circumstances for why you can't take action is a huge indicator for why you might be stuck. Right. So if you find yourself saying, I don't have enough time, that my life is too busy in order to take action, or I'm too tired, then we have something to work with to say, okay, so if that's the way that you feel and you don't want to feel that way, what's necessary to change? So as a result of me not really wanting to change, so another issue is that we're afraid of changing, I ended up looking for quick fix diets to fit my excuses. Okay. So I would fast so that I could eat anything I wanted. So one of the resistance points would be, well, I don't want to not eat those things. All right. So I'm only going to eat within a certain amount of time. Or I would do Weight Watchers so that I could eat within a certain amount and then I could drink all of my extra bonus points or whatever those was. I don't even know if they do that anymore, but I had these bonus points on Weight Watchers. So I would be able to really control everything I ate and then drink everything I wanted to. Or I went vegan at one point because I didn't want to give up gluten. And I thought, well, if I go vegan, then I can eat pasta and carbs. So we tend to get stuck in these cycles of excuse making because we want the diet or we want our lifestyle that we want instead of connecting with how we want to feel, right? So it might say, I want to be able to do these things. I want to be able to party with my friends. So what's the diet or what's the rule that I can follow so I can continue to do these things and I can live out my life? But what we're ignoring completely is, well, how do I want to feel? If you want to feel like you have energy, if you want to feel like you have confidence in your body, if you want to feel comfortable in your own skin and you want to feel like strong, right? If you want to feel those things, then there's certain things that need to change. If you just want to lose weight and that's all you want to do, you're going to get back on another diet and you're not going to hold yourself accountable for making changes in your life that are worthwhile. And so the first step is really knowing whether you are making an excuse or you're experiencing your truth isn't to diet, it's attaching it to how you want to feel. So before you guys even start thinking about how are the things that I'm saying or the excuses that I'm giving, are they my truth or are they an excuse? The first thing that you need to ask yourself is what I'm doing or the effort that I want to take for my health attached to some sort of rule that I've learned about, or is it attached to the way that I want to feel? Okay, so that's the biggest thing that you want to ask yourself. Is what I'm doing helping me feel the way that I want to feel? Is it helping me feel more comfortable, feel more confident, feel lighter on my feet, feel like I have energy? Because then you can get in touch with whether or not what you're doing is an excuse, right? If I say that I'm too tired or I'm not a morning person, but I want to feel energized and I want to feel stronger in my body, well, guess what, you guys, you got to get up earlier and you got to go get your workout in if you're too busy during the day to do anything so that you can feel strong and confident and feel better. It's just what needs to happen. So we start to set ourselves up with a bit more urgency when it comes down to how do I want to feel in my life rather than what are the rules I can follow in order to lose weight, because it's not important enough. The way you feel day in and day out is what's going to help you reach your goals. So I know I didn't want to feel tired anymore. So I needed to learn how to sleep better and rest better. I didn't want to feel sluggish anymore. So I needed to learn how to relax without alcohol. I didn't want to feel gassy and bloated anymore. So I needed to figure out what foods were causing that. There's urgency behind all of that, how I didn't want to feel anymore. And that came from thinking about what is it that I want to be able to feel in my body, not how much weight do I want to lose. As a result, I ended up going on a journey to weight loss and to feeling stronger in my body, but that's because of how I felt. I wanted to feel stronger, so I lifted weights. I want to feel comfortable in my body, so I choose to eat healthier. I want to feel energized, so I eat enough protein. Okay, so again, really think about how do I want to feel today, and am I doing what it takes in order to feel the way that I want to feel? That's the first and foremost thing that everybody needs to think about. We have to make these deliberate choices. And this is actually my job. This is the first job that I do with my clients, is to help you understand how you want to feel, because it's so ignored, but it's so important so that you can connect your actions to that. And it's the first part of figuring out your plan and being able to move forward with the habits that are ultimately going to stick. Because you can say, you know what, I don't feel the way I want to feel today. So these are the things that need to change. Okay. The second part, and this is the juicy part, is identifying the difference between the excuse when you're saying, I'm too tired, I don't have enough time, I'm too busy, versus the truth. And this is actually the harder part, okay? Like talking about our feelings and saying, this is how I want to feel, that generates the ability to take action. But the really hard part is saying, how do I know if after a really long week and I decide that I'm going to sleep in instead of do my workout, if that's the truth, or if I'm just making excuses for myself? How do I know that? Right? How do I know if I really feel horrible enough not to take action? How do I know that? So I'm going to give you guys a set of questions that you can ask yourself that is going to help you get really clear on that. And I'll give you examples of how I work through it. So the 4 things that you're going to ask yourself when you're asking whether or not the excuse that you're giving is the truth, or if it's truly an excuse. Here's the first one. Are you avoiding responsibility for your health? Are you avoiding the responsibility of taking care of yourself? Right? Are you just like, I don't really want to do that today, so I'm going to say that I'm tired. So you got to dig deep. The second thing is, are you focused on external circumstances, such as blaming other people, other situations, your external circumstances in your life or your kids, or you think that somebody needs you and you can't take care of yourself? Are you blaming external circumstances? That's a red flag. That tells you that it's an excuse. Are you afraid of change? So are you just afraid because it's different and you haven't done it before? If so, then it's an excuse. And the fourth thing is, do you beat yourself up afterward? That's usually an indication that you're making an excuse. Now, you might go through this series of questions and ask yourself these things, and then you can think like, which one, if it's mostly true or not, then it's an excuse. On the other hand, if you're taking responsibility for your health, let's say that you've been sick for a few days and you don't know whether or not you want to get back to the workout. If you say, I need another day of rest, are you avoiding your responsibility or taking responsibility for your health? I'd say you're taking responsibility for your health. Using the same example, if you're sick, are you focused on external circumstances like other people being sick and you have to take care of them? Or are you focused on yourself? Well, you're focused on yourself. I have been sick for a few days and it's time for me to keep resting. Amazing. So far, this sounds like that this is a truth, not an excuse. Are you afraid of change or are you accepting change? So are you afraid that when you work out that it's going to make your cold worse? Or can you accept the change? This is interesting because using this question, you can actually say, I'm willing to try a little bit and accept what's going to change for me. And that doesn't mean that I have to put all of the effort in and kill myself over the workout. I can just see what's happening. So you can also be a little gentle with yourself and still show up. And then the fourth thing that you might ask yourself, are you beating yourself up after or feeling relieved? So if you took that rest and you felt really good afterward and you're like, wow, I really needed it, then it was probably your truth. If you're beating yourself up after and you're like, actually, I feel great today, like there was no reason, and I'm actually afraid of going back to work out because I've taken time off, then it became an excuse. So you show up next time. So this is the way that you can use this process or these series of questions to really get in touch with whether it's your truth or your excuse. And I'm going to throw a link to this in the chat so that we can talk about it. But I want to do one more because this one's so common. So if you say, I'm not a morning person and I don't get up early in the morning, is this the excuse or is it your truth, like a part of who you are? So it's an excuse if you're using the excuse, I'm not a morning person, to avoid responsibility for your health. You're avoiding it. Okay. People who take responsibility for their health say, I'm willing to try to get up in the morning so that I can fit in my workout or so I can make myself a healthy meal so I can move on with my day. That's taking responsibility. So we want to look out for that. If you say you're not a morning person and you're thinking you're not a morning person because everything else is a problem, you're like, well, I can't be a morning person because I stay up too late at night, or I can't be a morning person because I have to work late, or I can't be a morning person because my kids keep me up. You're blaming external circumstances and you're not focused on yourself. So bring it back to yourself, right? You're identifying yourself as not a morning person. Bring it back to yourself and say, I'm willing to get up earlier in the morning. Are you afraid of change? This is so common with people who say they're not a morning person. You don't want to get up in the morning because you're afraid you're going to be tired. You're afraid it's going to ruin your day. And so you're like, nope, I have to sleep in. That's just the way that it is. But if you can accept that it would just shift the timeline for you down a little bit so that you can accomplish more, get the rest you need and wake up in the morning, then you don't have to be worried about the change. You're just shifting it. So try to get out of fear of change. And then the fourth question that you ask yourself, do you beat yourself up after? People who say that they're not morning people tend to say, I really should get up in the morning. I really should get up earlier so I can squeeze it in. If you hear yourself saying that to yourself, get up earlier, just give it a shot, see how it feels. If you're not feeling relieved, I have another client who her work actually does take her late into the evening time, especially on the weekends. And so she shifts her whole day forward and she does wake up earlier. It's relieving to her to know that she can do her workout at 9:30. For those of us that have a 9 to 5 job and you can't work out at 9:30 in the morning, it's different for you, right? You're not feeling relieved because you're not addressing the fact that getting up a little bit earlier is going to help you get your workout in or make some healthy meals for yourself in the day. We have to take responsibility for our health. And sometimes that means doing something that feels a little uncomfortable. So again, I will share this with you guys in the chat, the excuse making or truth document, so that you can, guys in the Oops, that's me. Okay. So that you guys can really think about whether or not what you're saying is an excuse or not. So I'm going to invite Allison, my friend and client, onto the Zoom. She's going to pop her video on.
Hello.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hi.
How's it going? So Allison is super consistent with running. She's training for a half marathon. She plays tennis. Allison, you've been through my program. You know how to choose foods that make you thrive, and you're very dedicated to your health. And when I think about somebody who really takes responsibility for their health and taking action, you really come to mind. And I think it's important for people to hear a bit about your process or journey of where you may have been in a place where you didn't do that, and how you came to a place where you started taking responsibility for your health and maybe made some non-negotiables, and you were able to break down any excuses that you used to have.
I mean, I think, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I think I still have the excuses, right?
Mhm.
It's like, it doesn't go away just because I do it more. It becomes easier, but there's still like mental gymnastics at 5:45 when I'm like, oh, but do I really need to? And like, I think I've just learned over time that I can. So that's part of it. I mean, I think I used to be a lot more goal driven with especially my exercise and probably my eating too. Like it would be, oh, I'm gonna like I would stick to a plan when I had a certain race or if I had a
Yeah.
certain event, and then it would kind of fall apart. And I even had that anxiety a little bit training for the half because it was like a lot more dedication that I was gonna have to put in. I can't just like, oh, I'll just run two this weekend. Like I couldn't do that. So then I was like, oh, what's going to happen when this is over? Am I going to go back or not do it? And I've just found that like it almost doesn't matter the quality of it sometimes, as long as I'm up and moving a little bit and doing what I need to do. Like when I'm doing strength training in the morning, I'm not doing 25 pounds. Like I'm there for the stretch and then I'll just hang in, see what happens for the rest of it. Because like I don't want to overdo it, but I think for me, because I have so much going on the rest of the day, and I know that I don't have time to do it, and I will find a million excuses. That window for me from like 6 to 6:45 is one of the only times that my family won't interrupt me, won't be asking me questions, that I can have it for myself, and then I can just choose when I'm there what I want to do and what I want out of it. But like I even notice like Friday is like I have a day of rest before I do a long run. And if I don't get up early on Friday and I get up at 6:45, I find myself on the couch like scrolling with no energy to do
Yeah.
anything. So it really to me it's just like it kind of activates the day to make me successful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, it is finding that time in the morning. I know, and that it's like so that the excuses don't start rolling in. And so taking responsibility for some of us might mean getting that high value, high impact work done between those times. And it's hard at first, but it is important to be able to follow through with that. And like you said, it's like it doesn't always mean, I think we set the bar really high a lot of
Mhm.
times, and we're like, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is what I think is going to be happening. But as you know, in my strength training class, and we do this with running too, it's like, it's not about how much harder can I push myself, or what's the bar that I'm going to meet today. It's how am I going to show up for myself today? How am I going to create
Totally.
the space for myself to do that today, and give myself permission to become or to be anything that I'm going to be when I show up? Maybe it's tired. Okay. But you showed up. Maybe it's recovering from a cold. Okay. And you showed up. You still, guys, you still get to make different choices when you get there. Right? Like when we recover
Yep.
from something like a cold, or from, you know, maybe like some hardship in your life, or whatever it is, there's two things that get in our way. One is fear of returning, because we're afraid that we're not going to be able to do what we did before. And then fear of whether or not we're going to be able to do it. It doesn't matter. Like you're returning because you've done it before. So you don't have to be afraid of that. And whatever happens as a result during it is just what happens. It's you building yourself back up, or taking lots of breaks, or giving yourself grace, but you still show up.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like I said, the excuses aren't going to go away. You just have the knowledge within you to know that it's going to be okay. Like we went running Wednesday morning, and my daughter has softball from 8 to 10 PM in Nutley, and I didn't get home until 10:30, and I was like, "Oh, it would just be so great if I could sleep. What if I'll skip running?" And then, like, but I know because I've been doing it long enough that half an hour more sleep is not gonna make the difference in my
Mhm.
day, and it will actually, like, waking up, even if I'm tired as hell, to go for a run will give me a little bit more energy and propel me a little bit further into my day. And also, I know that my body will reset itself and be tired earlier, and then, like, instead of a catch up, it's just kind of like a readjustment. I just think, but it's taken me a really long time to figure that out, that it's like, yeah, you can still go to yoga if you have a cold, like, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're really sick, obviously no, but you could do a lot more than you think you can with
Mhm.
what you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's also that way with when many people know I just lost my mom a couple weeks ago, about a week ago or so. And during that time, it was friends encouraged me, they're like, Helen, just stop, like take a complete break. Like you don't have to do anything. I'm like, I know I don't have to, but what would it be like if I care for myself alongside grief? Right. And if we ask ourselves that question, what is it like for me to care for myself alongside grief, alongside sadness, alongside tiredness, alongside exhaustion, alongside, we think that taking care of ourselves is this whole other separate thing, like exercise and eating well is this thing that we do when everything's okay.
Mhm.
But it's actually the thing that we do in order to be okay too.
Totally,
And we can use
totally.
that as leverage, like even when we're exhausted. And I'm not saying, I've got another client who's training for a half, and she's pared back on strength training. It's her first half marathon. And the big question I asked her is, are you avoiding responsibility for your health? Are you taking responsibility for your health by paring back on that and focusing on the running? She's taking responsibility for her health because she signed up for a thing that she's excited about, she's never done before, and she gets to follow through with it. And we're all here waiting for her when she's back. And so we get to ask ourselves that, am I avoiding something? Am I afraid of something? Is it fear of change? Am I blaming some external circumstance, or am I making a decision that is going to help me be better off?
Yeah. Well, and I also think the excuses goes in hand with, like, making yourself a priority. Like, sometimes I have to reframe it, like, "Ugh, I have so much work to do. Would I, like, not pick my kid up from school because of that?" Like, no, I always would. So it's like, why is that more important than me taking care of me? So, like, I have to think about it in those other terms, like, do I wanna make dinner? No, but I
Yeah.
will, like, just like I should go do something for myself, because I was thinking about this while you were talking, like, I don't know if there's a time when I've exercised or taken care of myself that afterwards I'm like, "Well, I shouldn't have done that." Like,
Right.
I don't know when that's happened. Like, I always feel better. You just have to, like, remind yourself that that's on the other side of
Yeah.
the negative self-talk leading into it.
You're totally right. I can't think of a time where I've gone out and have been like, I shouldn't have done that either
Yeah.
or avoided it. Yeah, for sure. The other morning, my daughter Jillian woke up, she's 7, and I've been leaving my kids 7 and 10 years old in their beds in the morning to go for a run on their own, like locking the house. And they just know what's happening and set them up with like a little note and breakfast in case they get up, and which has happened a couple of times. But she woke up early in the morning before I went out the other day, and she's like, mommy, come in and snuggle me. And I wanted that so much. And yet I also had the responsibility of taking care of myself. So, like, what do we do in those moments as the coach, as the person who's doing the job? I have to leave that opportunity and go and do my job. And as hard as it is, I encourage my clients to think about it as your job as
Mhm.
well. Like if it wasn't my job, maybe I'd stay back and take the opportunity, but it's literally 35 minutes. That's it, of taking care of yourself. And this kid still wants to like climb up back in my uterus and snuggle me all the time. At 7 years old, even though I don't snuggle her first thing in the morning because I'm taking care of myself and my exercise, we still have it's not like it ruins anything. She
Yeah.
knows, okay, mommy, when are you going to be back? And then I come back and everything is totally fine. So we get really worked up, I think, about these responsibilities for our kids, or for that we're going to upset somebody else, or we're going to upset our partner because we're taking time for ourselves. And that goes back to the blaming those external things. Like, is it about me or is it about someone else? If it's about someone else, bring it back to yourself. It was about my kid and hurting her feelings. But guess what? She loves that she runs around saying, mommy's so strong. Go, mommy. How was your race today? And she's in that energy with me because she knows that it's important to me and it's going to take care of my life.
Totally. And I think like you, I tell my family, like, I'm running now, so I won't be home. And like, if they do see me, it's like, well, what are you doing here? Then I have to be like, I skipped. Like, and I don't want that either, because I don't want them to think that that's a thing you could just do when you don't want to do something. So it kind of like builds this whole like mantra of like, we do hard things sometimes and everybody's
Yeah.
still okay.
Yeah. We do hard things and we follow through. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. It definitely says something, to your family and to the people around you when you do that. I have another client who, she loves going out with her friends and spending time going out to dinner and all of that. And I said, well, like, bring it back to yourself. So take responsibility for your health, bring it back to yourself. Try a home cooked meal one time that, like, she's like, I don't cook at home. I'm like, so how fun would it be to invite your friends over and to say, guys, I'm trying this new thing. I'm going to cook this, like, come over and come eat
Hmm.
with me at my house. Like, we get to bring in components of the things that we really love into our health, and it can change something and really, like, maybe it makes her closer with her friends, or they start a new tradition, or like, you never know what's going to come out of you taking responsibility for your health and following through and continuing to go that route.
Yeah. But I think it's scary, right? It's like,
Yeah.
that's scary to do something that like might not be within your wheelhouse, or like that your friends are like, well, why are you doing that? But
Yeah.
sometimes that's when you have the most change, when it's the scariest.
That's right. And that's the difference between fear of change and acceptance of change. Yeah, this is changing and I'm freaking excited about it. Yeah. What do you think, Allison, are common excuses that can be mistaken for truths? Like, things like, oh, I worked too hard this week, or I don't know. What are some of those lists of things that we can come up with?
I mean, definitely the tired for me is a big one, the I'm too
Mhm.
tired, which I think like I've worked on. But I also like, so I play tennis, but so in my head I'll say, oh, but I'm playing tennis later, I don't need to get up. But
Mhm.
like, and then I have to reframe of strength training will make me a better tennis player, will make me stronger, will keep my bones stronger. So I think that's one of them. Like, you can always say, but I did this already, so I don't need to do anything else. Or um let's see, trying to
Yeah, that's a
think.
good one. I love the reframe into, like, I could say, well, I've already done this, but being able to reframe something into, but it's going to help me in this way is so useful. I do that with what I'm eating, how I'm moving, any of that.
And then I think the other one is like, for me personally, sometimes it's the FOMO. So like, when I have to go out for a long run and then like, oh, everyone else is doing this, and I'm like, I get invited to stuff and I'm like, I'll be gone for 2 hours pounding the pavement. What's happening with everybody else? So that's something too that I have to realize. Like, I'm doing this for me, and this is a challenge I've put to myself. And if people want to hang out, we can do it at a time that works for everybody. So that's
Yeah,
one for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Amazing. That, again, that's bringing it back to yourself, right? So you can make it about everybody else, or you can say, well, we can do it at a time that works for all, including me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people like, oh, if I don't go out with these people, I'm not going to keep up, and then you stay out too late, and then you can't do the morning thing. So there, for sure, there's that, in your life, like the fear of missing out of what's happening, or that you're going to miss some critical thing, like if you don't go to a family thing because you have to do this or that. I think that's been a big one for me, that I have to just realize it's like maybe an hour of
Mhm.
something that I might be late to, or have to reprioritize stuff in my life.
Yeah, yeah, definitely reprioritizing is a huge part of being able to make space for health overall. Like, having I don't know, a couple hours on a Sunday to meal plan, you may need to move something around, like a family time or whatever it is that you're doing, in order to be able to fit that in. But then during the week, everything's going to be less stressful. You're going to feel like a happier human. You're going to be able to connect with your family even more in the evening times. Like, it's shifting and reprioritizing. It never takes place of, it's like, yes, and it
Right.
benefits all of the things. Like I find that any effort that we take for our health ends up benefiting all of the things. It's never detracting away
Yeah.
from your life. Like you might not want to do it, but that's
Right.
different.
Right.
That's
Right. That's a
different.
lot of stuff. Right. And I will, and the other thing, like I have my kids do a lot of sports. I'm driving all over the place, and you've teased me about this, but it's like I've become like this master of like finding an hour, 45 minutes, like in between things. Like let's say they have practice for an hour and a half, and I'm in who knows where. I will get on my phone and Google like massages in Oakland, New Jersey, and go get myself a massage because I'm really sore from running. Or I'll say, okay, I can just walk around this industrial park for half an hour and talk to a friend on the phone. So at least it's some form of exercise if I didn't get to do it in the morning. And I think that's another thing. People don't just say I'm too busy. And there's always like 15 or 20 minutes where you could do something. Like even if I sit in the car and do like a 10-minute headspace meditation because I'm so worked up about all the crap that's going on. It's like you have that. You have 3 minutes, you have something to do.
Yeah. Yep. That's also a huge way of aligning what you're doing with your life. Like you might not be able to do what everybody else says. I always say there's always a unique plan for us. Like maybe it doesn't work for you in the morning for some reason, but there are pockets and things that you can do throughout the day or in the evening time or to take care of yourself, whether it's like finding that time. I have another client whose daughter plays field hockey and she walks the track
Mhm.
while her daughter plays field hockey.
Oh,
Like,
I've done that. Bryn's
yeah.
like, "Bob, you're so embarrassing. You've gone around 400 times." I'm like, "Hey."
Hey, girl.
Yeah, but who cares? It's like,
Yeah.
it's better. I mean, and then, well, the one that, like, I'm getting better with this, but certainly if it's outside with exercise, it's raining, it's too
Mhm.
cold, it's too
Mhm.
hot, it's
I don't
windy.
like it.
So that one, like, I mean, you can find anything, but that's one that I've also been like, okay, if I'm going to run races, sometimes it will rain in the races. So the first time I'm running in the rain shouldn't be the race. So it's like, let's get used to that. You won't melt. It'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. A huge part of what helps us slash me, I think, is being in community, right? Like having
Yeah.
other people who are going to go out in the rain with you, or other people who are getting up at 6 a.m. with you, or other people. And then you're like, okay, so I'm not alone in this
Mhm.
and I'm supported in it. And a huge part of what we do, is the community part and the messenger chats and the Facebook group and
Mhm.
all of that so that we can feel motivated and see that other people are doing it too. I mean, even those of you who are running these long distances on your own without us, like Erica, for example, posting her selfie in the morning that she was able to get up and finish everything by 7 a.m. and get a cup of coffee and something nice for herself from the local bakery to get on the train. I mean, the stuff you guys do, like that's inspiring, right? And to see somebody else do it, it's like, man, okay, if she can do it, then I can do it. So you got to surround yourself with people who are drinking the juice that
Yeah.
you want to drink.
Yeah. And she would message me and be like, I can't do this. This is the longest run I've ever done. I'm not going to do it. I'm like, you're going to do it. You're just going to put one foot in front of the other. And then it's like, then you do it. She did it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just until you experience it and understand that you can do a lot more than you think you're possible, but that it's possible to do. It's like, it's very eye opening to be like, oh, okay, I guess I can do that. I should stop making the excuses because that's not the real reason.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And knowing the real reason is just as important as not
Mhm.
doing it, right? Like you can spend all your time looking for the right diet or the right program or the thing that's going to fit for you, like I talked about earlier. But at the end of it, it's really not about the right program. It's about reprogramming yourself and your excuses for why you aren't taking action and working in community or in our membership or in my program or with me, like will 1,000% help you drop all of that.
Mhm.
For sure.
Yeah, and I don't think people should be afraid to try. It's like I told you, I show up at strength training for the stretching and then anything else is a bonus. And it's like if my back feels a little looser, that's a win. Like you don't have to take these like I, was chest pressing like 50 pounds. Like it's not that. Like that's not what
Yeah.
it's about. No,
Yeah,
like you're not going to win a medal. Like you need to feel good inside. Like that's what I always
totally.
tell my tennis partners. I'm like, there's no medals being passed out. Just play within yourself and like unafraid.
Yeah. Yeah. Unafraid, 100%. Like with joy, unafraid,
Mhm.
just showing up so that you can have an experience, because the choices that we're making that end up being our excuses are not joyful experiences.
No,
Like whether you're sleeping in more, okay, so maybe you're getting a little more rest, but you're not experiencing life in that. Or your phone scrolling between meetings instead of getting up and going for a walk. Like you're not experiencing life doing that. Watching more than, I'm going to say more than, because I do like my Netflix in the evenings sometimes, more than like 3 shows in a row.
hmm
You're no longer experiencing life. Like you're just laying around drooling on yourself and thinking that you're a night owl when you're not going to bed and taking advantage of the fact that you could go to sleep, get a good night's sleep, feel rested, and feel better in the morning. So I think all we want is to be able to have these life experiences. And if we can get honest about the excuses we're making, then we can have more of that.
totally, totally. But
Yeah.
you have to recognize that like it is the excuse, and then what is really holding you back deep down, which is a hard thing to come to grasp with. But once you do, it's like then you can't unknow it, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah. Oh, there's me
yeah,
being me again.
yeah, right. It's just that it's not like I don't understand. It's like, yeah, now I do.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and that's where when I was trying to figure out, and I spent a lot of time thinking about and researching the difference between an excuse and your truth. And so it is coming back to that framework that I threw for you guys here in the chat, and that whether you're avoiding responsibility, right? Focusing on blaming your external circumstances, you're just afraid to change something, or you are really used to beating yourself up. You're like, oh, I'm going to do it on Monday, or like I can't get to it. So, even just exploring those 4 things, along with the things that you believe might be excuses, can be really valuable so that you can not beat yourself up, but get to know yourself again.
Mhm.
Just get to know
Yep,
yourself.
totally.
Yeah. Cool. Allison, thanks for joining me today. It's so much more
Thanks
fun
for
in
having me.
partnership than by myself.
I get that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I hope you all have an awesome day. And I hope this live was useful to you. If you want to talk more about whether or not you're making excuses, happy to hop on a call. You can always message me, and we'll get set up to do that. So thanks a lot. See you
Have a
later.
good one. Bye.
Bye.